All right, the first section we have is 12.1. These are vectors in the plane. This is simply our introduction to vectors. So we talk about how a vector can be interpreted as a certain as displacements. So a displacement in the x direction, a displacement in the y direction. So we can interpret this as v1 telling us how far to move to the right or to the left. So to the right is positive, to the left is negative for x's, and of course for v2, if v2 is positive, we move up, and if v2 is negative, we move down. So for example, if we have the vector negative 1, 3, then this might be something like move 1 to the left, and then up 3. So something like this. The magnitude of a vector comes directly from Pythagorean theorem, because we can always make a right triangle where we have the displacements, the absolute value in their displacements, right? Interpreting as a right triangle, we can go ahead and apply Pythagorean theorem to obtain the length of this vector, also called the magnitude, but it is just length. The idea of geometric vector addition, so tip to tail vector addition, essentially says if we have a vector v and we have another vector w, we can add these two together simply by imagining taking one of the vectors, picking it up, and putting it or basing it where the other vector ended. And this can be done in any order. We could have also done it this way, where we begin v at the end of w. The order doesn't matter. Vector addition is commutative. The order doesn't matter. So once you have them aligned in this tip to tail method, this is the tip of v, this is the tail of w. Remember that for a vector, so this is the tail, this is the tip. So this is the tip to tail method. What you would do is draw a vector from the very beginning to the very end. This right here represents the vector sum v plus w. You can create a unit vector. So a unit vector is just a vector that has a length of 1. So for instance, if we have this vector v right here, this vector may or may not have length 1. If it does not have length 1, so let's pretend for a minute that the length of vector v is 3, then what you could do is take v and divide it by 3. This creates a new vector, let's call it e sub v. Also, sometimes people use the hats for unit vectors. So as I have done here, you are more than welcome to use this hat notation for unit vectors, but you're also always able to put an arrow. So this is a unit vector pointing in the same direction as this subscript v. The way we find it is taking the original vector and dividing by its own length.